$92,000 versus $8,000. We're gonna find out, how does our cheap as chips Mercedes GL 450 stack up to the brand new one. Design-wise, it's not great. There's a lot of shapes going on here, and there's a lot of smooth bits that really intersect awkwardly with angled bits, and then you've got random bits of chrome, like these 1930s style Auburn fog lights, which they just don't fit with anything else. Now visually, this 2024, I think, is a lot better. It's a lot more cohesive. It's all round now, not as kind of squared off and pointy, but everything seems to fit with everything else, with one exception. This particular 2024 GLS has an AMG package, $3,250, with these huge 21-inch wheels, except they don't look that big on the car because they have this grayed out portion which make them look small. So you don't get that cool visual impact of a big wheel, but you don't get the ride quality of a small wheel. And then we come to the tire size. This is a 315/40 R21 rear tire. This is a $400 tire. I don't know why you need such a huge amount of rubber on an inline 6-cylinder vehicle, but maybe if you're buying the new GLS, skip this. One of the best parts about this car is that it's huge, and when it comes to legal representation, bigger is better. When you're hurt, you deserve the best on your side. Insurance companies will often lowball clients' claims. Morgan & Morgan will fight to get you the money you deserve. Just in the past 12 months, Morgan & Morgan saw verdicts of $12 million in Florida, 34 times the highest insurance offer, and $26 million in Philadelphia, 40 times the highest insurance offer. Morgan & Morgan make finding a lawyer for your injury case easy, fast, and free. The fee is completely free unless you win. Submitting a claim for an injury doesn't have to be a stuffy process. With Morgan & Morgan, you can submit a claim without ever having to leave the couch. 8 clicks or less and you're done. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/TFL. That is forthepeople.com/TFL. Now back to the episode. 2008 Mercedes-Benz GL 450, so naturally you'd expect 450 to stand for 4.5 liter, and naturally Mercedes said nope. It's actually a 4.6 liter, but this is a phenomenal, naturally aspirated V8 engine, 335 horsepower, 339 pound-feet of torque. It's actually a really reliable lump. I know what all the comments are going to say, you know, this GL is a ticking time bomb, but the engines in these vehicles last a long time and are just a wonderful symphony of V8 noise. 2024 GLS 450. Did they learn their lesson about the naming number convention thing? No, because this 450 series car has a 3-liter 6-cylinder engine. It's actually quite a lovely little engine, 375 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque. It's turbocharged with the EQ Boost 48-volt mild hybrid system. And look, I love the lumpy old V8 in the old GL, but this engine is pretty freaking phenomenal. It also has gone to a lot of modern technology, so you might notice there's no traditional drive belt set up on the front of it. It's all been incorporated inside the motor. Guys, thank you so much for watching this series. It was a ton of fun to make, and I can't believe I get to bring this car to all of you wonderful viewers. Now, we're publishing these series every Saturday for the next few weeks, but if you simply can't wait for the next episode, head over to patreon.com/TFLcar, where all the episodes are live right now for Patreon supporters. And actually, this series literally could not be done without Patreon, because one of you guys out there, Mike, a Patreon follower, actually was the one who alerted us about his mom's car for sale. So thank you, Mike, for making this series happen, and thank you to all of our Patreon members. You can check out the rest of the videos there right now. Now let's talk about the off-road capabilities of both of these cars, and that is the whole reason we bought this 2008 Mercedes GL 450, is because this car has an incredibly rare package. It's the off-road package, which came available in these first-gen GLs, which gave you some unbelievable things. Let me show you. Now, it was about a $2,000 option, and the off-road package gave you some hardware that is truly unbelievable from a crossover standpoint. Now, first of all, it gave you a proper low-range transfer case. The standard GL had just a single speed, and the off-road one had a low range. So to get in a low range, we're going to go into neutral there on the transmission, and then we're going to push the low-range button. We also have 3 different off-road heights on the air suspension. So we're going to go into off-road level 2, that's going to raise there. And then not only that, but this vehicle has a center and a rear locking differential, which will activate when we get stuck. Guys, this is a huge deal. And the thing is, abroad, the GL in some markets came standard with the off-road package, but here in the US, I have never, ever, 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 ever seen another one. It's that rare. So let's see what that means from off-road capability. All right, so we're at off-road level 1. We got low range selected and the center differential locked. By the way, these first gen GLs with the off-road package, if you went all the way up on the suspension, you got over 12 inches of ground clearance. Independent suspension, of course, but this was from an era where the company thought you needed to include real off-road gear in your luxury SUV if people were to buy it. We're going over these big moguls here. So far, we haven't really needed the lockers, but now the left front's starting to lift up. You can feel that there. Okay, traction control's kicking in. It's actually pulling us through. Pretty effective traction control considering this was the early to mid 2000s. But just because I have it, we're rocking here in 2 wheels. Let me go ahead and lock up that rear diff, and you're going to see what an enormous difference that makes. So rear diff locked, such incredible control with that low range, just feathering the throttle because we've got that torque multiplication that you need when you're out in the dirt. It's really steep at the top. Look at that, lifting up that front tire. But it just crawls it. I mean, it's amazing that Mercedes even offered this at all, because nobody was taking their X164 first generation GLs off-road, but they gave you that tech, which is just fantastic. What a cool option that nobody bought. And I swear, I challenge you, if you're in the States, try to find another first gen GL with the buttons and the switches that indicate the off-road mode. What's funny is, like, the standard GL actually had an off-road button, whereas the off-road package got rid of the off-road button and instead gave you lockers and a low range and all this stuff. So kind of funny how that works. So this car was manufactured over 16 years ago, and I have to say, this interior has held up phenomenally well. This is a really nice place to spend time, even in 2024. Especially considering this car was less than $10,000, and actually some of the tech is still very relevant. You've got keyless start, keep your key in your pocket, push the button, and the car fires into life. Sure, the infotainment screen is looking a little bit old. It's just a 7-inch unit, but it's got some stuff that you'd come to expect, like satellite radio, like FM connectivity, and of course, wow, look at that. That's where you insert your CD audio and DVD navigation discs. But what I love about this old GL is all of the buttons. The aircraft carrier worth of buttons here for everything from all your climate control to your rear climate control to your heated seats. It's all physical controls and buttons and knobs, and it works so unbelievably well. And then you come to the finish itself. You've got this walnut across the steering wheel, which feels and looks great. You got physical gauges, which is something I definitely miss from cars of old. And even like the dash is this beautiful stitched material everywhere. I mean, this is a really nice interior, and there's a couple of things carried over on the new one, like the drive selector being column mounted. It's got little teeny tiny paddle shifters behind the wheels, which are the most adorable little things you've ever seen. And overall, guys, I mean, for $8,000, this is a great place to spend time. Stepping inside the new GLS is like stepping into a Swedish nightclub. Lots of lights, lots of screens, a little bit of IKEA in here. But who am I kidding? This is a beautiful interior as well. Now, the heart of the interior is this MBUX system, 12.3-inch screen. Just about every aspect of this car is now controlled in this screen. From your comfort settings, your ambient lights, all your vehicle info is all going to be in that central screen. Below that, you got these 4 vents because why not? We all need more air. And then below that, we do thankfully have some physical controls for your temperature, for some of your adjustments there, which is great. And then of course we got some modern stuff, which they didn't have back in 08, like wireless charging, USB-C ports, really nice, bits of modern tech there. And then of course the instrument cluster is now completely digital, and it allows you to configure it in so many different ways. So if you want to feel like Andretti, you can do so in the sport mode. If you want to go super nightclub, you can do it in the understated. Or if you want to have a little bit of adventure, why not go to the off-road pages? So a lot of connectivity in this vehicle, a lot of more modern technology, but it's maybe not quite as user-friendly as the old school knobs we found in the old car. All right, so we've stepped inside the new GLS, and let's talk about off-road modes in this vehicle. Now, the 2024 is also available with an off-road package. If you get like the GLS 580, it's $1,900, and it includes another mode on the dynamic selector. It includes some additional adjustment to the air suspension, but it is nowhere near as thorough as the first gen. So you don't get the selectable locking diffs, you don't get the low range transfer case, stuff like that. So it's cool that Mercedes still has the package and maybe a little bit of shielding, but it's really not in the same league as the old one. This car doesn't have that package, but it still does have height adjustable suspension, and it's still some off-road modes. So let's take a look at that now. All right, so let's see what we can do. Now we've got this big toggle. We can push that up, and that's gonna put the suspension into the high setting. And we also have these nice nifty cameras, so we can really see where we're going off-road, which is pretty cool. There's even like a, 3/4 view, so you can kind of get a sense of where you're positioning the vehicle. And then if we go to the dynamic select down here, let me quit out of that. There we go. There is this off-road mode. You have to accept it. That's going to put the engine, suspension, steering, and ESP into off-road settings. And then here in the gauge cluster, I can also go into an off-road view, so we can really see what's going on with the steering position, some tilt, lean, that kind of thing. So lots of cool tech, but I mean, you can't beat selectable lockers in a low range. So let's see how this vehicle does. Now we're also rolling on a set of snow tires on this press loaner that Mercedes has lent us. So it doesn't have the off-road tires that our GL has. But look, what's amazing is even though we don't have the locker, Mercedes does a really good job with their traction control programming. Okay, that's gonna drive us crazy, isn't it? We're gonna turn off the parking sensors. It's gonna lift up the wheels and the tires. Now, not nearly as much torque multiplication or modulation in the dirt because we don't have a low range. So we're having to work that EQ system, that torque converter a little bit more. So see, like here, it's got to think about it quite a bit harder. It's still doing it though, but it's definitely not walking up quite as easily as we had done in the first gen GL. Come on, buddy, figure it out. These 315 tires are probably also not helping the situation much. Come on, let's see what you got, Mercedes. It's also tough knowing that we're in $92,000 worth of car. Makes it quite a bit more stressful. But even still, look at that. We crawled up that slope. So it doesn't have the same sure-footedness as the old one, but still works pretty well considering the target demographic of this vehicle is probably more targeted at soccer practice than off-road trails. The back seat of the 2008 car is very luxurious as well. Some old retro tech in here, like this car had the rear seat entertainment option, which were these small screens integrated into the backs of the headrest, so you can watch your early 2000s Disney movies through a set of the Mercedes branded headphones down there, which is pretty funny and pretty retro. But look, a lot of nice features back here. Like we do have a third zone of climate control, a nice little cubby so your kids can smoke. Yeah, I mean, it's a good spot. We also have these air vents integrated into the roof and this weird pod. So you get a lot of airflow coming from a lot of different areas in the back seat of this GLS. Now, Mercedes has really stepped up the luxury for rear seat occupants in the new GLS, and it's got features like reclining second row that's done with these buttons on the door panel. Look at that, an electric headrest. Oh man, if I was a kid, I'd play with that non-stop, guaranteed. But this is a really nice back seat. You might also notice this particular one has these captain's chairs back here with adjustable armrests. We also have climate controls back here, but less air vents. We only have 2 here and then 2 on the pillars. And we don't have the roof ones because that's been replaced with this huge panoramic sunroof, but it's a more usable, more comfortable back seat in the new GLS, which you might expect for like, what's that, $84,000 more? Yeah, okay, it probably should be nicer. Now when it comes to storage and space, well, the new GL is a little better. 17.4 cubic feet worth of space with all 3 rows up, but you'd expect that because this vehicle is a full 5 inches longer than the old Mercedes, coming in at 205 inches in total length. Now the old one is still super usable, and they both have power lift gates, which was pretty cool back in 2008. But yeah, a little bit less space, right around 14.3 cubic feet with the seats all the way up, but of course, all seats do fold down in this vehicle, and just like the new one, these seats fold up and down electrically. And there's very few things on this car which I think carry over from the old to the new, but this button up here is probably one of the few. The shape and the actual layout is basically the same. Driving the new GLS 450, because of course Mercedes has added an S to the GL badge to signify the long wheelbase 3-row version. What a lovely car. All right, now driving the new 2024 GLS 450, Mercedes of course added the S a few years ago to symbolize this is a long wheelbase. Everything's GL now, but there's GLA, GLB, GLC, and then all the way up to GLS. This is the big boy, and it is comfy. It is quiet. It is so quiet. It is so refined. I mean, the refinement difference between the 08 and the 2024, night and day. I mean, yeah, the old one is super squishy and very comfortable, but like the complete lack of any kind of intrusion from road noise, from a bug hitting the windshield. It's amazing how insulated this new GLS is. Now let's talk about the inline 6 in this GLS 450. Now, you're probably thinking, well, 450 when they went from a V8 down to a 6-cylinder, is it really as good? Yeah. This inline 6 3-liter, they use it in several applications. This is an incredible engine. It is one of the smoothest, silkiest, most responsive engines I've driven in a long time. It delivers power exactly when you want it, and there is so much more of it than the old one, especially being up here at a mile above sea level with turbocharging and the 48-volt EQ boost system. This little Mercedes, that's not little, this big boy hauls butt. It really boogies. I mean, yes, you can get the 580 and you can get the AMG version of the GLS. Don't. There is no need to. This engine is phenomenal, and it gets like 6-7 mpg better than the old car. So you get more power, more refinement. I would argue more reliability. This engine's really proven itself to be very, very good so far, and better everything with the engine. As much as I like the V8 and I like the sound of the V8, this engine is a gem. Absolutely great. Now we got to talk about the price on the new GLS. So the old one, brand new, started at about $55,000. The new one, brand new, starts at $87,000. And of course, we got quite a bit of inflation in there over the years, but you also get a lot more tech safety features and things that could keep you alive in an accident in the new one. That's definitely worth knowing. Like, for example, this one, we got adaptive cruise, we got lane centering, we got the amazing Mercedes semi-autonomous functionality to keep you in the lane when you need to be in the lane, and it works so well. It's not intrusive. We've got more airbags, we got modern crumple zones, we got that new small overlap test. So if you're worried about safety with your family, the new one is going to be such a better car for safety. Now, for value, it's going to be more expensive because it's going to depreciate. There's just no way around it. Look, that car was expensive when it was new. I think the 08 was like 70 plus with the options. This one's 92 with options, and they depreciate. So you're going to lose money over time. But if you really care about safety and keeping your family as in one piece as possible, the new GLS is going to be better. All right, so I'm going to start spewing out unpopular opinions here, but the first generation of Mercedes GL is one of my favorite Mercedes of all time. And look, the reason that this car is unloved is because it came from a pretty, maybe we'd say, tough era of Mercedes history. This was when Mercedes really started focusing on cost savings, and I think the quality did suffer, especially compared to some of the stuff in the 80s and the 90s. But having said that, there's so much comfort and luxury and Paris Hilton era charm to this Mercedes that it's just almost undescribable. I love the acres and acres of buttons and the stitching and the faux, actually it's real wood, in places that it probably shouldn't be, like everywhere. It's just such a satisfying thing to be in. And then the driving experience, it's an absolute tank. It's a tank. It's got heavy steering, slow steering, it's got a slow throttle response, but it's got a solidity and a weight behind it, which is just so fun to drive. All right, now let's talk about this engine, right? So 4.6 liter V8. This was one of a few engines available in the first gen GL here in the States. You had the 450, the 550, and then there's also the 320 CDI, which was a turbo diesel. I really like this engine. 335 horsepower is not a lot of power, and it's lugging around like 5,500 pounds of SUV. But even still, when you floor it, it's got a 7-speed automatic, so it's got a fairly high number of ratios to choose from. And when you get into the upper areas of its power band, it boogies okay. I think it was like 7.5, 8 seconds to 60. So not a ton of power by modern standards, but a nice consistent wave, and it is buttery smooth. All right, we gotta talk about reliability, because there's a reason that this car is $8,000 with 120,000 miles and one owner. The first gen GL suffered from a number of pretty expensive issues, one of them being air suspension, and this vehicle has had the air suspension replaced on both the front and the back. And it's expensive, especially if you do it at the Mercedes-Benz dealer. But these cars have a pretty bad reputation for reliability, which is why most of them are between like $4,000 and $10,000, and oftentimes have a lot of problems. Now, we're very fortunate that the previous owner of this one took really good care of it. Everything works, not a button, not a warning light out of place. But yeah, and look, they're expensive cars to keep on the road. This car new was $70,000. Started at $55,000, this one was $70,000. But yeah, it's not a cheap car when it was new. It's not a cheap car to keep on the road today. If you're like, wow, all that luxury for $8,000? I mean, that's like used Camry money. Yeah, but you're gonna spend another used Camry money over the course of a couple of years, most likely, to keep it on the road. We're gonna hold on to it, let you know how the real world ownership experience is. But you look, guys, it's all Mercedes. They're expensive to fix. There's just no way around it. Now, which Mercedes do I like more? Well, the new one is a symphony of luxury. It is so quiet, such a better made vehicle. Everything fits better, feels better, is better attached. That engine is phenomenal, but I really like the capability of this old one with the off-road package and the low range and the locking diffs and all that. I mean, it's just so crazy. You can have a 7-seater mom car with a rear locking diff, which even by 2024 standards is pretty much unheard of. So from that standpoint, I like this Mercedes more. But if you want a vehicle that's going to be reliable, more comfortable, reliable, more fuel efficient, reliable, the new one is going to be the car to buy, let's be honest. Or get one that's a couple years old, still in CPO. It's an excellent platform, that new one. But this one definitely steals my heart. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. A big thank you to Cole behind the camera, and we'll see you on another episode.